Here we go. The Emperor's new clothes. Many years ago, there lived an emperor who was intensely fond of elegant new clothes that he spent all his money on being well dressed. He paid no attention to his army. He cared nothing about theater. And if he went for a drive, he only did so to show off his fine new clothes. He had a different outfit for each hour of the day, and just as people might say of any king, he's in conference, so here they always said of the emperor, he's dressing. The emperor lived in a big city where something exciting was always going on. Strangers came and went all the time. And one day, two swindlers appeared. They introduced themselves as weavers and said no one could begin to imagine how exquisite was the material they could weave. And what was more, they declared, not only were their colors and designs uncommonly lovely, but clothes made from the fabrics they wove had a strange power. They became invisible to anyone who was unfit for his office or who was extremely stupid. Such clothes might come in handy indeed, thought the emperor. If I had some, I'd know at once who among my people were not qualified for their jobs. I could tell immediately also which were the clever ones and which the fools. Yes, some of that stuff must be woven for me at once. And he gave the two swindlers a large advance payment so they could begin to weave without delay. The rogues put up two looms and made believe they were hard at work, but there was absolutely nothing on the looms. Without batting an eye, they soon demanded the finest silk and the most expensive gold thread, all of which they crammed into their own suitcases. Then they returned to the empty looms and pretended to work until late into the night. After a while, the emperor wondered how they were getting on. I'd like to know how much of the material is ready, he thought. But he hesitated to inquire when he remembered that owing to the fabric's strange power, one who was either a fool or unfit for his office would not be able to see it. The emperor was inclined to believe that personally he had nothing to fear. But still, he thought it might be well to send someone else first to see what progress had been made. The whole city knew about the material's secret power, and everyone was eager to find out how stupid or how lacking in ability his neighbor was. The very person to send to the weavers, thought the emperor, is my honest old minister of state. He'll be the best able to judge the material because he has good common sense, and no one is better suited to his post than he is. So the honest old minister went off to the workroom where the two swindlers sat at the empty looms. Heavens, he thought, and he opened his eyes wide. I can't see a thing. But of course he did not say so. The two rascals begged him to come closer and pointed to the empty looms, asked what he thought of the colors and the design. The poor old minister opened his eyes wider, and still he couldn't see a thing, for there was nothing to see. Oh, merciful heavens, he said to himself, is it possible that I'm a fool? Certainly I never thought so, and now no one must know or even suspect it. Or can it be that I'm not fit for office? Well, obviously I mustn't say so. I mustn't let anyone know that I can't see the material. Haven't you anything to say? Won't you tell us how you like it? Asked the swindlers. Oh, it's entrancing, answered the old minister, peering harder than ever through his spectacles. Such an original pattern and design, such unusual colors. I'll tell the emperor, I'm simply enchanted by it. We're delighted to hear you say so, said the weavers. Then they carefully described the intricate design and named all the colors. And the old minister listened attentively so that he could repeat every word to the emperor. And this he did. Now the swindlers demanded more cash, more silk, and more gold thread, which they needed for weaving, but which they pocketed themselves. They did not put a single thread on the looms, but continued to work at the empty frames as diligently as ever. There they are. And see, there's nothing on the looms. There's the poor old minister. Not long after this, the emperor sent another trustworthy official to see how the weavers were coming along and to find out how soon the material would be ready. This one fared no better than the first. Although he gazed and gazed, he could see nothing, for there was nothing to see. "Isn't this the loveliest material imaginable?" asked the swindlers. They pretended to show him the pattern and described the design that wasn't there at all. "I'm certainly not stupid," thought the official. "Then it must be my wonderful job, for which apparently I'm not qualified. This will no doubt amuse a great many people, but I'll make sure they never find out." So he too praised the material he could not see and told the rascals he was more than pleased with the beautiful colors and the splendid design. "It's absolutely marvelous," he told the emperor on his return. The whole town rang with the news of the gorgeous material, and the emperor decided to see for himself the remarkable fabric while it was still on the loom. So with a large but select company, including the two honest old officials who had already been there, the emperor sallied forth to visit the weavers. He found the sly impostors working away furiously, although there wasn't a sign of thread on the looms. "Isn't it magnificent?" asked both the honest old officials. "Will your majesty deign to note the original design and the glowing colors?" And they pointed to the empty looms, for they thought all the others could see the material. "What's this?" the emperor applauded. "I don't see a thing," he thought. "How awful! Am I a fool? Am I not fit to be emperor? Why, that would be the most terrible thing that could happen to me." But aloud he said, "Oh, it's marvelous, simply marvelous. It has my complete royal approval." And he nodded his head to show his satisfaction while he stared and stared at the empty looms, for nothing in the world could make him confess that he didn't see a thing. The select company stared and stared too, but saw no more than he did. However, they all repeated what the emperor had said. "Oh, it's just marvelous, simply marvelous." The king's a little red in the face and looks embarrassed, but everybody agreed with him because nobody wanted to look silly. Everyone advised the emperor to have a new costume made from this wonderful cloth and to wear it to the state procession that was soon to take place. Magnificent, sumptuous, grand were some of the words the enthusiastic company used to describe the material. The emperor knighted the swindlers, gave each the title Sir Knight of the Loom, and presented both with little emblems of their new order to wear in their buttonholes. The night before the procession, the swindlers worked from dusk to dawn, burning 16 candles. All could see how eager they were to finish the emperor's new clothes. They pretended to take the cloth off the looms, and with big scissors they slashed away at the air as if they were cutting out a pattern. Then they sewed for hours and hours without a bit of thread in their needles. At last they proclaimed the clothes were ready. Accompanied by the most illustrious member of the court, the emperor himself then arrived, and the swindlers met him. each with outstretched arms as if he were holding something. "Here," they said, "are your Imperial Majesty's royal breeches, and this is the coat, and this is the cloak. These garments are light as air. Indeed, their wearer might almost think he had nothing on. But that's just why they're so remarkable." "Yes," agreed the most illustrious members of the court, "but they saw nothing, for there was nothing to see." "Will your Imperial Majesty be pleased to take off all your clothes so that we might help you put on the new clothes here in front of this full-length mirror?" asked the swindlers. So the emperor took off his clothes, and the impostors pretended to hand him one by one the various pieces of his new outfit. They made believe they pinned something here and adjusted something there, and finally pretended to tie on the train. And the emperor preened, turning this way, and then that way, and before the mirror. "What an exquisite costume! How well it fits! Such a perfect cut and such colors," all the courtiers said. "It's positively and unquestionably fit only for royalty. Your Majesty's procession canopy is waiting outside," said the master of ceremonies. "Very well," said the emperor. "I take it I'm ready. Yes, don't the new clothes fit me well?" And once more he turned this way and that way, and finally before the mirror he turned once again, for he wanted all the court to see how carefully he inspected his new clothes. Here you go. These are the guys sewing. Dun, da, 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 da. Here is the king getting ready, turning this way and that. There's his wig. Ah, ah, ah. Ah, la, la, la. Okay. Ah, ah, ah. The two attendants who were ready to carry the train stooped down and pretended to lift it off the floor. Then they held their hands out as if they were really carrying a train. A train in those days, kids, was like a long cloak, something that trails behind somebody. Like when a bride, has a long thing behind her dress, or if somebody anyway, it's something that hangs down and you have to have somebody hold it up for you. So that's what they're talking about in this story, a train, not a choo-choo train. Then they held their hands out high as if they were really carrying a train, for they didn't dare let anyone think that they knew there was no train to carry. And so the procession started out with the emperor under the resplendent canopy. And all along the way, people lining the streets or watching from their windows said, "What elegant new clothes!" and "How beautifully they fit!" No one would admit that they couldn't see anything, for that would be admitting he was a fool or that he was unfit for their job. Never before had the emperor worn clothes that met with such wholehearted approval. "But he's got nothing on," marveled a child. "And just listen to this innocent one," said its father. And one person began to whisper to another, "He's got nothing on." A little child said, "He's got nothing on." "But he has nothing on," cried everyone at last. A chill went down the emperor's spine. It seemed to him the people were right. But the show must go on, he told himself, so he drew himself up as tall as he could and walked proudly on, his head held high, and the attendants held on for dear life to the train that didn't exist. Here we go. There's the emperor. Can you see? The emperor with no clothes on, going through town, and all the town at first is saying, "Oh, doesn't he look elegant? Doesn't he look splendid in his fabulous new clothes?" But the child spoke the truth and said, he doesn't have any clothes on. And finally, everybody said the same thing. He doesn't have any clothes on. And the king thought the same thing. But he finished the parade anyway. Why? Because he's the king, and the king was proud. The end. Okay, so we'll do more stories. Did you like that? I love you. Good night, kids. Sleep tight. Sweet dreams or no dreams at all. I love you more than pockets.